Maybe you shouldn't do that with one of the better players in the game. What were you thinking?
I don't care. He's old.
And some words exchanged with Brooks. Brooks by Green puts one up and in. Oh, and they're talking.
But he also is going to push it to the edge of physicality. He's known as a dirty player.
Whatever they're saying on the broadcast, they can keep saying it.
Heading into the season, most Suns fans were hopeless, and you couldn't blame them for it. They'd just come off one of the most disappointing seasons in franchise history, and watched the core they once pinned their championship hopes to disintegrate over the summer. Most of their picks belonged to other teams, and the headliner of the trade that sent Kevin Durant away was Jalen Green. It was tough to see light at the end of the tunnel. The city of Phoenix geared up for a long season of losing for no reason, but when this basketball year tipped off, something actually clicked. The Suns were fighting in every contest with the pride of a title contender, and more often than not, they were winning games. It was the story of the early season, and the closer you looked, the more apparent the catalyst for the turnaround was. The guy driving the cultural renaissance in the desert was none other than Dillon Brooks. Yeah, that Dillon Brooks.
The free throw line. He had a whistle before he made that. It's going to be a tee.
Oh, is that not Dillon Brooks? Dillon Brooks? He's not even playing?
For the first time in his career, everything just worked. His gladiatorial professionalism and even his willingness to occasionally cross the line were exactly the traits the Suns needed to build a team identity. But we've got a question. How did a one-time scapegoat and full-time heel become the nucleus that elevated a group that seemed destined for the lottery? Sometimes, the best thing for someone is to be counted out. When Dillon Brooks arrived in Memphis, there was no hype around him. No one in the building expected the reigning Pac-12 Player of the Year to hit the ground running. That's not why they picked him. The Grizzlies drafted Brooks because he was a tone setter, and the golden era the franchise had barely exited was built on those kind of players. The Tony Allens and the Zach Randolphs, hard-nosed competitors who approached each game like it was a street fight, and Brooks was built from the same ethos. Someone who could learn from the last remnants of the grit and grind era and maintain the spiritual foundation of the franchise in the future. Over the next few years, Memphis assembled their new core. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. were the stars. They would fuel the offense and anchor the defense. But there was something else about this group that made them feel a little different. And the more you watched them, the more obvious it became. They were connected, dancing in tunnels, talking trash to every team in the league, sending entire armies to back each other up in fights. They were as tightly knit as it got, and the man at the center of it all was Dillon Brooks. He was the heartbeat of the team, the exact sort of cultural focal point they were hoping he could be, and with him leading the tunnel walks and mean-mugging opposing fans, Memphis burst onto the scene. They won 56 games in 2022 and sent the Timberwolves home in the first round of the playoffs, setting up a pivotal clash between them and the Golden State Warriors. It was written on the walls and etched into the promos. This was the kind of series where a young team took control of their future 1 year earlier than we all thought they could. But the Dubs were a dynasty fighting to keep their title window alive. They weren't going to move out of the way easily. In Game 1, Golden State stole a win in front of the Grizzlies' home fans, and in the final minutes of the first half, Draymond Green delivered a hard foul to Brandon Clark before taunting the crowd right after his ejection. In the eyes of Memphis, they got punked. Game 2 couldn't go the same, not just for the sake of the series either, for the sake of their pride. So Dillon Brooks came to the game ready to dive for loose balls, defend with endless energy, or do whatever else the team needed from him. Unfortunately, it only took 3 minutes for that passion to backfire.
The seal, Payton, right down the middle, he's fouled hard. And Payton's in pain. Grabbed him initially, then Brooks got there late with the swipe, and he clubbed him on the side of the head.
Whether it was malicious or not is a personal call, but it was clearly reckless. And after the game, the other shoe dropped. Brooks was suspended from Game 3 by the league. The Grizzlies would lose that game by 30, and they never dug themselves out of that hole. Next season, they shook it off and got back to it. They were playing fast, defending aggressively, and coming to every arena with a unified swagger. Another 50-win season, another 2-seed, another step towards building a title contender. But late in the season, things started falling apart. Ja Morant got into some off-the-court trouble that disrupted the team's rhythm, and without the star at the center, the entire roster started to feel disjointed. In an instant, the atmosphere around the team was uneasy. Players were dodging questions about the incident in the locker room, and the coaching staff looked shell-shocked. But the hits just kept coming. The media segments and think pieces came first. Then Draymond Green discussed the issue around the team on his podcast, and he ended it with a foreboding shot to Dillon Brooks.
The dynasty starts after you, not with you. And that's just a fact.
It's not like a comment from Draymond was enough to change the team's approach, but given the context of the timing, it was ominous. The core that felt inevitable last year felt shaky at best, and the only way to restore the confidence in the foundation was by pulling off a playoff run. This time, it was a different pair of legends standing in their way: LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the resurgent Los Angeles Lakers. After what happened last year, Brooks wasn't going to risk anything with an overly physical foul. Instead, he was going to set the tone with a little bit more subtlety by antagonizing LeBron James. Brooks crowded him, let him hear it after every successful play, and routinely took shots at the King in post-game interviews. For the second year in a row, the Grizzlies' vocal leader brought something extra to the postseason, and for the second year in a row, it backfired. LeBron worked through the noise the way an all-time great does. He kept playing his game and shut Brooks down on the other end. Statistically, the matchup had been a disaster, and inside the locker room, it was another distraction for a team that couldn't handle any more of them. The second-seeded Grizzlies would lose to the 7th-seeded Lakers in 6 games. The team identity they'd carefully crafted was being ripped apart by pundits and relentlessly mocked on social media. And worse than that, as a team, they were stalling. They needed someone to put the blame on in order to avoid fracturing any further. And there was one obvious option available. Starting next season, Dillon Brooks would not be a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. The Draymond Green podcast that followed was a classic. After the team that drafted Brooks publicly exiled him, things were looking dicey. The majority of NBA franchises saw him as radioactive, and there were rumors floating around that he was considering playing overseas. But right at the last moment, the Houston Rockets stepped in, and they brought more than a qualifying offer with them. In a shocking vote of confidence, Houston gave Brooks a 4-year deal with one imperative implied in the fine print: be yourself. The Rockets wanted everything that came with Brooks: the aggression, the tendency to toe the line, and all the intangible traits that made him who he was. In his first year with the team, Brooks began the process. Every time they went up against a marquee matchup, he was out there challenging them, teaching the developing prospects on the roster not to back down from anyone. From the outside looking in, it was annoying, but inside the building, it was exactly what management was hoping to see. It didn't lead to much that season. Next year though, it all came together. The young guys stepped up, the old vets kept it moving, and the culture was forming. Houston was aggressive and mean, a rugged bunch of bruisers who treated everyone they came across with the same competitive indifference. This was exactly the formula that Ime Udoka and the Houston front office had in mind, and the results spoke for themselves. By the end of the 2025 season, the Rockets had won 52 games, secured the 2nd seed in the West, and secured a matchup with none other than Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. As you can imagine, the stories pretty much wrote themselves. Youth against experience, artistry against aggression, and of course, Dillon Brooks against the exact squad that started his unraveling. There were enough narratives there to leave any sports journalist happy, and once the Warriors took a 3-1 lead, the focus on Brooks only intensified. Everyone expected him to make some kind of dangerous play or fiery statement, but that never happened, at least not in a series-defining way. In Game 4, Brooks body-checked Curry to the ground before getting into a shoving match with with Draymond. After Game 5, he openly admitted to targeting Steph's injured thumb throughout the series. Both of those incidents were problematic or downright dirty, but the Rockets were winning and the league wasn't taking action. They battled all the way back to tie the series up at 3 games apiece and earned an opportunity to close the series out at home. Unfortunately, something happens to Steph Curry when he plays in do-or-die games in the city of Houston. Every time the Rockets came within striking distance, Curry would toss in an impossible shot that took the air entirely out of the building, and in the end, the Warriors found a way to move on. After the series, Draymond Green was there to call Brooks a sucker for refusing to shake his hand, opening him up to another onslaught of memes and criticism. On the bright side, the Rockets weren't blaming him. Houston was happy with their enforcer, and the plan was to keep him around next season. But that summer, there was an opportunity to add Kevin Durant to the roster, and that's not something they could pass up. At this rate, one day a dynasty really was going to start after him. This time there was no rebuild underway, and the team didn't have a young core in place. The Suns were simply lost. In 2025, they watched an experiment built on 3 brand name stars disintegrate in front of their eyes, and now they were left sifting through the ashes of a hopeless situation. Dillon Brooks was a part of the package they got for Kevin Durant, but he wasn't the headliner, and the package itself wasn't all that inspiring. Even with Brooks and Jalen Green and all the other pieces Phoenix added in the offseason, the roster still looked like a shipwreck, the desolate retribution for all of Matt Ishbia's sins against the CBA. But privately, the Suns did actually have a plan. Yes, they were going to empower Brooks to be a vocal leader of the team, but they knew passion alone wouldn't be enough to dig them out of this mess. They needed shot making, so the Suns were going to trust Dillon Brooks to be the go-to shot maker. If they had told the public about this plan before the season started, they would have been torn to shreds. They were asking him to speak in the huddle and run the offense for stretches at a time. That was a responsibility he hadn't been given since college, because no NBA team believed he had the potential to handle it. His highest scoring season was as a third option, and that was 5 years ago. Expecting him to turn back the clock and raise his ceiling as a scorer at 30 years old felt absurd, especially after all of the emotional baggage he had tacked on over the years. That's what makes what happened next so hard to believe. Almost immediately, Dillon Brooks met the moment.
The one guy that I'm going to war for is Dillon Brooks. I think Dillon Brooks deserves to be an all-star. They got rid of KD and Bradley Beal. They got a better record than they had without those 2 guys. He's the only difference in the team. You got to give him his power. And I'm going to tell you what I compare it to.
What?
Draymond Green.
He had far and away the best start to a season of his career, defending with intensity, hitting tough shots, and catalyzing a franchise turnaround no one saw coming. Honestly, the season played out like a fan fiction written by, actually, we can't think of anyone who would write a Dillon Brooks fan fiction, but you get the point. First, he scored 24 and 22 in back-to-back games against the Warriors. Then he drilled the game winner over LeBron. And after all of that, he came to the arena on January 29th as something he never seen before, a celebration in his name. Every seat in the Suns arena had a Dillon the Villain shirt laid on top of it. The entire night was dedicated to him, and against the Detroit Pistons, Brooks delivered. Without Devin Booker in the lineup, Phoenix put the offense in Brooks' hands, and he came through with mid-range pull-ups, spot-up threes, and physical drives to the hoop on his way to dropping 40 points against the best defense in the league. There were no technicals, flagrants, or anxiety-inducing outbursts, just a crackling hum of energy and a steady stream of buckets as he led the Suns to a win over the team with the best record in the NBA. This video should have ended there. We should be drawing attention to the most shocking revival in the league and the unlikely anti-hero at the center of it. But last week, we thought Dillon Brooks' season was over with a broken hand. Luckily, it's just a temporary interruption, but to the dismay of us and all of Phoenix, they will have to find someone else to provide provide the edge, physicality, and even the scoring that Brooks gave them, and we aren't sure they have the answers on the roster. It will be tough to maintain that same momentum this season, but if it helps, we're not sure this was a lightning in the bottle sort of thing. Honestly, we think Dillon Brooks found it, a home that suits him, a franchise that appreciates him, and a way to harness everything that makes him unique. Just watch. In a couple months, he'll be back, arriving at the games in outfits that practically say "I'm over it" in bold text, keeping that nonchalant look in warm-ups, and playing with more competitive fire in every single minute than some guys do over their entire career. He'll be back there soon enough with the same bravado he always has, and Phoenix can't wait to have him back.